You met yourself once. Not the version trying to prove something, and not the one surviving. The real you. Grounded, healed, present. You passed them in a dream, or maybe in a moment of silence on a random Tuesday afternoon. But you didn't recognize them because you were too busy performing the version of yourself that the world trained you to be. This episode is not about reinvention. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering someone old, someone original, someone real. You. Are you ready? I am. I'm Jonah. I'm your person. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the show. So, I wanted to talk about this concept that I wrote called The Dream You Had But Forgot. The truth is, most of us don't know who we are. And not because we haven't found ourselves, but because we've been performing for so long, we forgot what our real voice sounds like. And there's this idea that healing is about becoming something new. But what if it's the opposite? What if it's about remembering someone you met once? Maybe in a fleeting thought, a dream, maybe in a quiet breath after a storm. But you forgot them. That version of you, the real you, isn't some fantasy. They're not a goal. They're already alive, already whole, already waiting. But they've been so drowned out by survival patterns, achievements, expectations, that you wouldn't know what to do if they walked up and introduced themselves. You'd smile politely, maybe say, "Nice to meet you," and probably walk away, never realizing it was you. The version of you that doesn't shrink, doesn't perform, that doesn't hustle for their worth. And that's what this episode is about, the version of you that feels like home, and how to finally recognize them. You've already met the real you. You just didn't know it at the time. In this part 2, we're going to talk about survival personas and identity amnesia. So you think you're evolving, but you're just optimizing your armor. So let's get real. Most of us are not operating from identity. We're operating from adaptation. And we've built personas and masks and roles and versions of ourselves that know how to survive. And you may think you've found yourself because you're successful now, and you've grown and you've healed, but you're still performing. You're just better at it now. Smarter armor, nicer packaging, but same survival underneath. This is identity amnesia. You forgot who you were. Now, some of us became the overachiever, some of us the peacemaker, the fixer, the hustler, the therapist friend. We call that personality. But really, it's protection. And when protection becomes identity, you can't even tell when you're free. Because freedom feels wrong. It feels too still or too unfamiliar. So we keep optimizing the version that survived instead of making space to meet the version that's alive. So here's your first challenge. Write down all the roles you've had to play to feel safe. And which ones are you still wearing like a second skin? In part 3, I'm talking about why we're addicted to the struggle version of ourselves. We don't fear failure. We fear the version of ourselves we don't control. Let's go deeper. We don't sabotage because we're lazy. We don't quit because we're scared of failure. We quit because peace feels unfamiliar. That old version of you, the one that lived off cortisol and chaos, it's addicting. Even when you're destroying yourself. Why? Because it's predictable. You know how to operate when the world is on fire. You know how to problem solve under pressure. But sitting in peace? Sitting in quiet self-trust? That terrifies people. This is why we keep returning to struggle, because it's the version of us we understand. It's the identity we can control. That real version of you, the one that doesn't need external validation, the one that feels regulated and whole, that version threatens the entire narrative you've been living. So you self-sabotage, not because you're weak, but because you don't recognize what it feels like to live free. You're not afraid of failing, okay? You may be afraid of finally being okay. Okay, let's dive into part 4, the moment of friction. Becoming who you're meant to be means disappointing the version of you who survived. And here's what nobody talks about. Growth can sometimes feel like grief. When you step into your next level, you are actively betraying the parts of you that kept you alive. And you're disappointing the self that survived. And that's hard because that self worked hard. They endured trauma. They handled chaos. They carried you through situations that no one even knew about. But if you want to meet the real you, you've got to release the survival persona. And you've got to say thank you and goodbye. This is a friction point. And this is where most people stop because it feels wrong to let go of the identity that got you here. But listen, the real you is not threatened by peace. The real you doesn't need control to feel safe. The real you feels foreign because you haven't had the chance to live like them yet. This is the split in the road. Do you keep performing the version of you who made it through hell? Or do you finally meet the version who gets to live? And here's your second challenge. Write a letter to your old self, the one who got you through everything. Say thank you, then set them free. On to chapter 5, a glimpse of the real you. Okay, close your eyes. You're in a quiet room. Someone walks in and they feel like home. And it's you. Let's pause. Drop the performance for a second. And I want you to imagine this. Once again, you're in a quiet room. It's safe. No one's watching, no audience, no expectations, just stillness. And someone walks in. You don't feel triggered. You don't feel tense. They sit across from you, and something in you softens. Their posture is calm. Their voice is gentle. Their presence is steady. They're not trying to impress you. They're not wounded. They're not rushing. They're just home. And after a while, it hits you. This is you, the real you, the version that knows how to breathe. You're not broken. You're just buried. And every step toward peace is a step toward this version. Not someone new, someone finally seen. This version of you is not a fantasy. They're a memory, waiting to be reactivated. All right, let's drop part 6. I call this one, What's Blocking the Introduction? Look, you don't need to become someone new. You just need to stop defending someone that you're not. And why can't we access that version of ourselves more often? Well, 3 main big blockers. Number 1, over-identification with productivity. So if your worth has always been tied to output, you'll feel unsafe resting. You'll confuse the stillness with laziness. So you keep chasing, grinding, performing, thinking that's who you are. Number 2, constant comparison. You're not just trying to become your best self, you're trying to outpace everyone else. You scroll yourself into self-doubt and then wonder why you feel unworthy. And number 3, unresolved emotional loops. You never actually process the pain. You intellectualize it. You built systems. But the part of you still stuck in the memory, that part never got the memo. So when peace shows up, you push it away. The version of you that's healed isn't hiding. You're just defending the version that's not. So here's another challenge for you. Which of those three blockers is strongest for you? Name it. Call it out. Stop letting it drive you. All right, on to part 7. I call this one the challenge. Make the introduction. But before I go on, I want you to remember this. You don't need another breakthrough. You need a proper introduction. All right, with all of that said, you've heard the message. Now it's time to meet the real you. Here's what I want you to do. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Grab a journal or your notes app and write to them the version of you that feels whole, calm, grounded. Describe them. Ask them questions. What do they believe? What do they say yes to? Or what do they walk away from? Then introduce yourself to them as you are right now. Awkward, tired, in process, still healing. Let that version of you become a reference point. So the next time chaos calls, you have someone real to come home to. Because the real you isn't a dream. They're a destination. And you're getting closer. Remember this. The healed version of you isn't far away. They're waiting for you to say hello. As we wrap up the show, I wanted to leave you with a thought. You spent years rehearsing survival. Now it's time to remember who you were before the world got loud. Because you're not here to be impressive. You're here to be real. And that version of you, the one with soft eyes and steady breath, is closer than you think. All you need to do is say, I see you, I remember you, I'm ready now. Let's make the introduction. Thanks so much for joining me in this week's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please drop a like, follow, share, and subscribe. And you can also catch me on TikTok, Snap, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn for extra content. For now, thanks for showing up. Thanks for hanging out with me, and have a great week.